Have you ever wondered what happens when a president can't take a joke? Well, we got to witness that very moment during this year's Oscars, and it was better than any acceptance speech. The host for the night, Jimmy Kimmel, known for his usual cool demeanor, threw a curveball that no one saw coming. Right in the middle of Hollywood's biggest night, he casually pulled out his phone like he was checking the time at a boring family dinner. The audience fell silent, wondering what was so important that Kimmel needed to check his messages during the Oscars. What happened next was something no one expected. Kimmel, while reading through his phone, revealed that former President Donald Trump was watching the Oscars and posting angry rants about the show in real time. Imagine the shock in the room as Kimmel shared Trump's furious Truth Social posts. The audience could feel the collective disbelief as they realized that the former president was so bothered by a comedy monologue that he immediately felt the need to vent online. This was our former commander-in-chief, folks, glued to his phone and stewing over a comedian's jokes. It was almost too bizarre to be real. Trump's posts were a perfect storm of rage, misspellings, and random capitalization. In his rant, he criticized Kimmel, asking if there had ever been a worse host at the Oscars, accusing him of being a less-than-average person trying too hard to be something which he is not. To make matters even more absurd, Trump suggested replacing Kimmel with another ABC host, George Stephanopoulos, because apparently that would make everyone look bigger, stronger, and more glamorous. Kimmel, with his usual comedic timing, didn't just let this go. He read the post, aloud to the audience, and the room quickly shifted from nervous laughter to genuine astonishment. Imagine the oddity of a sitting president, one with multiple legal battles on his plate, taking the time to throw a tantrum about an awards show host. The post itself wasn't just a complaint, it was an illustration of Trump's fragile ego, incapable of letting go of even the smallest slight. The whole thing felt like a surreal moment in Oscar history, a bizarre spectacle where the president was literally throwing a digital tantrum in real time. It was as though Trump was hate-watching the Oscars, live commenting on every aspect, while Hollywood's finest sat in the audience witnessing this unfolding spectacle. It felt almost like an ex watching your wedding live stream and posting angry comments about your centerpieces. The tension in the room was palpable, and the reactions from the audience were priceless. Kimmel, however, wasn't fazed. After reading the post, he paused, looked directly into the camera, and delivered the perfect response. He calmly remarked, "I wish I was Al Pacino, but I'm just not. Al Pacino's here tonight. I'm not." The punchline was delivered effortlessly, and the room erupted in laughter. Kimmel had just perfectly handled the absurdity of the situation. He didn't get mad, he got funny. He didn't stoop to Trump's level. Instead, he pointed out how ridiculous the whole situation was. And then, with impeccable timing, he ended the bit with the zinger, "Isn't it past your jail time?" The joke hit so hard because it wasn't just funny. It exposed the ridiculousness of a man, once the leader of the free world, throwing a tantrum about a comedian's jokes while facing multiple legal challenges. The beauty of the moment wasn't just in the joke itself. It was in Kimmel's calm, casual response to Trump's online meltdown. The punchline was a perfect demonstration of how to handle a presidential tantrum without getting angry, just pointing out how utterly childish the whole thing was. Kimmel's ability to maintain his cool while exposing the absurdity of Trump's behavior was a masterclass in handling egos, and it left everyone in the room in stitches. It wasn't just a joke, it was a subtle lesson in how to respond to pettiness with grace and wit. As Kimmel read Trump's angry rant, he not only made fun of the former president, but also reminded everyone how important it was not to let petty squabbles spoil your big night. In a world where people often rise to the bait and get dragged into arguments, Kimmel showed us that sometimes the best response is to laugh it off and move on. But what was even more bizarre was how Trump, after the fact, went on Fox News to cry about Kimmel's joke. He admitted to being blindsided when Kimmel read his post aloud. Apparently, Trump never thought Kimmel would do something so audacious. It was as if Trump, in his mind, was the only one allowed to take shots, but no one should be allowed to retaliate. His reaction was like that of a toddler throwing a tantrum, with the added twist of his very public online posts coming back to haunt him. Watching Trump backpedal after realizing that his posts had become part of the evening's entertainment was almost poetic. It was a moment of pure irony, where the man who once had access to nuclear codes was spending his Sunday night rage posting about an awards show he claimed to hate. As if the moment couldn't get any more absurd, Trump's complaints about Kimmel's performance were laced with contradictions. He ranted about Kimmel's alleged lack of ability to host, only to be proven wrong when the ratings for the Oscars actually went up. In true Trump fashion, he couldn't even get his facts straight. The suggestion to replace Kimmel with George Stephanopoulos felt even more ridiculous when you realized that Stephanopoulos wasn't exactly known for his comedic chops. The whole post felt like the rantings of a man who had too much time on his hands and a fragile ego that couldn't withstand even the slightest criticism. The entire situation was an uncomfortable reminder of how a person in power can allow their ego to get in the way of common sense. Trump wasn't spending his Sunday evening solving international crises or working on his presidential duties. He was sitting at home, angrily watching TV and stewing over the Oscars. His tantrum, which might have seemed like a passing moment of petty behavior, spoke volumes about his inability to handle being the butt of a joke. It was a stark contrast to the dignified way presidents are typically expected to behave in public. Instead of focusing on the weighty matters of leadership, Trump was obsessed with something as trivial as a late-night comedian's jokes. The episode also exposed just how out of touch Trump was with the reality of the entertainment world. While the Oscars were a celebration of Hollywood's finest, Trump was busy throwing a fit over his wounded pride. He failed to realize that the whole point of the Oscars was to celebrate talent, humor, and the achievements of others, not to cower in fear of a few jokes. The fact that he thought his tantrum would go unnoticed was as delusional as his belief that he could dictate the behavior of others. In the end, this episode wasn't just about a comedian making a joke at the expense of a public figure. It was about the absurdity of a former president who couldn't take a simple jab and felt the need to retaliate in the most childish way possible. It was a reminder that some people, no matter how powerful they once were, can't handle being laughed at. And it was also a reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with a bully is to call out their nonsense, casually, with humor, and with confidence that they can't shake your resolve.